My name is Karen Sheed. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager at East Riding College, and I look after all of the marketing, all of the PR. Me and my team do marketing campaigns to encourage people to come to the college, make sure people know about what we offer.
I'm the Client Services and Enrichment Manager and Safeguarding Lead here at the college. So I am based across both Beverley and Bridlington sites, and I manage the team that are in charge of all the admissions process, all of the student sort of finance, the wonderful Jodie here and the enrichment, and can look after safeguarding.
Hi, I'm Alex Sheldon. So I'm the Head of Curriculum for Construction Engineering here at East Riding College. So I look after all the engineering teams, the motorcycle, motor vehicle, plumbing, electrical, brickwork, joinery, all of that for the college across Beverley, Bridlington and Hull for adult education.
I'm Tracy Underwood. I look after all the counselling courses at the college, and I'm also a counselling tutor.
I'm Helen Muldridge. I'm the Vice Principal. I've got a very long job title to reflect quite a broad range of responsibilities. So I'm lucky enough to work across various parts of the college, working very closely with Mike, the Principal, but including learner services, all of the management information, funding, curriculum planning, and also some of the curriculum areas, English and Maths and Foundation, which cuts across equality and diversity and inclusion, which is something that I care deeply about as well.
So my name's Eve. I'm a guidance officer here at the East Riding College. I'm quite new in Perth, so I'm just still learning the ropes.
So when you was growing up, Karen, and everyone would say to you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you used to say?
Well, there was two things really. When I was very young, I wanted to be a vet, but I think that's because I like animals, and that was working with animals. But I'm not very good at science and maths and things like that, so that kind of fell by the wayside when I realised, excuse me, when I realised that I needed qualifications to do that. And then when I was a bit older in secondary school, I wanted to go into journalism or photojournalism or something along those lines. I was interested in the media.
Well, when I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. And all of the way through school, that was my plan, was to be a teacher. And then I decided at secondary school, I was going to be an English literature teacher because that was my favourite subject. But whilst I was at sixth form, I actually found out I was pregnant. So that kind of put plans on hold because I wanted to move away from home to go to university. And you can't really have a baby in a dorm room. That wouldn't have worked particularly well. So I kind of had to make the choice, do I put plans on hold or do I look at alternatives? And actually during my pregnancy and labour, obviously I worked with the midwives, and I was really quite fascinated with the role that the midwives did. So I kind of changed my thought and thought, right, that looks really good, I want to be a midwife.
Fireman.
A fireman.
To be fireman, yeah, I did.
When did sort of that stop? When did you change your mind? Because obviously you're not a fireman now.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Sheffield, so I went to secondary school in Sheffield through there, and I remember being sat in my careers advisor's office when we had actual dedicated careers advisors. That was long time ago, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to be a fireman," and she said, smelling the cigarettes, and I think she just put one out as well. Absolute nonsense. You only want to be a fireman because you watch London's Burning, blast of the past there. I said, no, I don't actually want to be a fireman. She said, why don't you work in steel factories? Get yourself down Pitsmore and work in a steel factory or wherever it was. I thought, I don't want to do that. So that made me more adamant to do it, to be fair. So when I was 16, when I was 15, my parents moved over to Bridlington, and they bought a business, they bought a hotel, some holiday apartments, a restaurant, cafe, gift shop. But I was still finishing school, so I stayed over there. I stayed over in Sheffield and lived with my gran for a year to finish school. And it was during that point I thought, I'm adamant that I want to go into the public services.
When I was really young, I wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to be. I used to watch all the nursing programs and think that's where I want to work in a hospital. I had something about hospitals for some reason. I don't know why. And then the older I got, the more I wanted to work with animals.
Yeah, this is where I really struggled, to be honest, Jodie. And I didn't really have a very good handle on what the different sort of job opportunities might be. And I think that really that was what contributed to me perhaps not being as motivated as I could have been at school, because I didn't really have a very, very clear plan. Certainly there wasn't much information shared at school about what the different pathways were, and I think the assumption was that if you were sort of academically capable, then you would go on to university and go from there. So I never did really have a very clear idea of what I wanted to do, to be honest.
So growing up, I used to watch a programme called Ally McBeal, and I used to think that when I grew up, I would be a lawyer. And that was it. It was written in all my family, you know, this girl, she's going to grow up and she's going to be a lawyer.
Did you study after school or did you get a job? What did you do when you left school?
I did my GCSEs, and I did better than expected. I was looking to go to the local FE college, and then my school persuaded me to stay on to do A levels, which actually was a mistake, I think, in retrospect. I was one of those people who got sort of talked into going down an academic route, when I think actually a more vocational route would have suited me a lot better, actually. But I kind of I stuck with it, but I did switch A levels halfway through, so I dropped one A level and picked up another. And for me, it was a really kind of difficult time. Really, I was very depressed. I was really unhappy doing what I was doing, but I was kind of stuck. So it was a bit of a shame, really, that happened, and I didn't kind of stick to my guns and go to the local FE college, which is what I'd wanted to do originally.
And I stayed on at my school's sixth form to do my A levels, and I had plans to apply to university to do a degree and then do my teacher training. I went back to college after doing my A levels. I actually went to East Riding College, or it was Beverley College at Gallows Lane back then. I did some further training. I did my level 3 childcare and education, and then applied to university to do midwifery.
So I then moved on to East Yorkshire College at the time, and studied, I think it was public services, then sports science for a while.
Well, halfway through, I started off at a grammar school in Essex, and then we moved to Whitby, so I was put in a mixed comprehensive, which blew my mind a bit at the time. And so I was meant to get a lot of O levels. We did O levels back in the day, Jodie, in my time. And
which are GCSEs for the students that are listening?
So we had O levels, and so I really did very badly on them. I only got 2, English and French, and so instead I should have been going to sixth form, but instead I always used to like to cook, and so I did 2 years of a national diploma in catering management. At the time it was called.
Yeah, so I stayed on and did A levels, and again it was really because that was just what was expected. So I stayed on at school to do my A levels. Did always have part-time jobs, and I probably got more satisfaction out of working than I did for my studying. I didn't get the best grades because I wasn't really motivated at that time. I didn't quite know what the next steps would be, but I had part-time jobs working in shops, in a pharmacy, in a chemist, and as I say, I got more sort of satisfaction and motivation from being out at work. But I did stay on and do my A levels at school.
I stayed on at sixth form to do my A levels. I did my A levels in theatre, English, and what was my history?
Right. So did you go to university, and what did you study sort of at university?
Yeah, I went to I applied to lots of universities through what is now UCAS, and I got rejected from all the universities that I applied for, bar one. So I got my A level results again, did better than expected. So I ended up going to university that was at the time a college of higher education. So I went off to Luton, which is now University of Bedfordshire, and studied media studies, which at that time was quite a new subject to study at degree level. There wasn't that many courses in the country that did things like media studies. So I went there and studied for 3 years and got a degree.
I went to university to do midwifery, and I was accepted, and I started on the course, and I absolutely loved it. But I found out after my first year at university that actually, no matter how sort of supportive family and friends were, trying to do the shifts of a midwife whilst having a young child didn't work particularly well, because I was doing early shifts, late shifts, night shifts, 12-hour shifts, and the nursery care just wasn't available to kind of accommodate that. So just after starting my second year at university, I made the decision to withdraw because it was really quite, it became a bit too difficult. So I had to kind of rethink plans further.
I went on to there to do sport. I think it was sports science. I think with biology, human biology, with the major, and then the minor was ICT.
Right.
And I lasted 7 weeks. I lasted enough for my savings at the student union bar to run out, and then thought I'm not enjoying this either. So I left university. I dropped out.
I was always quite good at maths, even though I flunked my O level. I was always very good at maths because my dad would never let me have a calculator, and I used to be able to be really good at maths. And so I started to do a little bit of accounts here and there, and I saw a job in Leeds working as an accounts assistant, and I got it. And so I did that for a while, did some travelling, lived in Norway for a bit, came back, and I was so bored with accounts. I just thought, this isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. I remember ringing my mum and saying, I've got to re-educate myself. I can't. This is too boring for me. And that was when I was 28. So at the time, they were still living in Whitby. So they said, come home, come back to Whitby, no rent, no bills, and we'll find you a local uni. Anyway, so I did that, and I ended up going to the Scarborough campus of Hull Uni when I was 28.
Right.
And I did a sociology and English lit degree.
No, I didn't go to university, and again, that probably would have been the most obvious thing that was expected of me, but it really didn't appeal to me at the time. I was actually in a relationship with my boyfriend at the time, and we've been together now for over 30 years. So I didn't really, at the time, really fancy the idea of going away to be at university. But I did go on and do some studying later on. I was lucky enough to work in an organisation that really prioritised staff development from my first sort of full-time permanent job. And then from there, I was able to undertake quite a lot of accredited qualifications, including management qualifications. And then ultimately, they did support me to go on and do a business management degree, for which was really, really appreciated. And that was the right timing for me to do that sort of later on in my life.
I went straight to university, but I ended up applying. As I say, I had no idea at that point. Obviously, growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer, but by the time I'd been through high school and been through sixth form, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. The lawyer idea had gone out the window. So I applied to university to do marketing economics because my dad was into marketing, and I thought, right, I'm going to follow in his footsteps. But it was something, I don't know how I got on the course because I knew nothing about it. And I remember being sat in the lecture hall and the tutor, the lecturer, was talking about elasticity equations. And I remember thinking, why am I here? So that was, yeah, it didn't last long. I dropped out.
Right.
I went
Okay.
away. Yeah.
So how long was you at university for?
I
You
didn't finish my first year. I knew from the first lesson that it wasn't for me, and I'd done the wrong thing. I'd applied to do the wrong course.
So have you ever gone back to university, or was sort of that it of your university life?
I went back as a mature student. I
Right.
actually studied here at the college, but it was obviously put on through Hull University. I did a foundation degree in learning support, and then I extended that to the early childhood studies.
How did you get from doing the midwifery job to sort of the job that you're doing now? Because obviously, like, they're very different, and obviously some of the students that are listening might be a bit like, well, that's nothing like what she does now. So sort of
Yeah.
how did you get from to where you are now?
Well, actually, when I came out of university and I had to have a little bit of a rethink, I started doing some kind of odd jobs. I did some admin work. I did some work in a nursery, and I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do because that was two plans I'd had already that hadn't worked out. And then I remember somebody saying to me, think of somebody that you admire and what job do they do, and would that be something you're interested in? And when I thought about it, when I found out I was pregnant, I was at sixth form. My initial reaction had been kind of like, oh, you know, this isn't great. It's not ideal. Things are kind of going to change. I had quite a lot of, I suppose, negativity. Kind of people telling me, that's it, your life's over. You're never going to get to do anything. And I'd gone in to meet with the head teacher to say basically, oh, I'm going to drop out of sixth form because what's the point? I'm pregnant. And I remember the school sixth form, Mrs. Vincent, was amazing. And she actually said to me, when I told her I was pregnant, she said, oh, congratulations. And that was actually the first time somebody had said that to me about that situation. And talking to her made me realise that actually it wasn't the end of the world. I could still have a baby and, you know, go on to do something and have a career. My life wasn't over. And it was kind of thanks very much to her that I stayed and completed my A-levels, that I went back to college, that I went to university. And I thought, well, actually, I would like to do something similar to be able to support and kind of make that difference to other people.
Next question is the job that you're doing now your end goal, or are you sort of open to any more opportunities? Is there anything you want to do sort of before our lovely career life ends?
Well, my job that I do now is is like loosely related to what I studied. So, but I did really kind of fall into marketing. I didn't again. I didn't really know what it was before I started working in a marketing department, to be perfectly honest. And I sort of started working. I started my sort of working life working in retail, working in shops, and then I worked in call centres, and then I just got a job at a marketing department at a company that I already worked for, and found that I liked it and enjoyed it. And I had a job as copywriter, was my first marketing job, and that's writing advertising. That's writing the words for that you put on advertising and in brochures and things like that. And I did that for a little while and found that I enjoyed that. And then I ended up moving around in marketing, getting lots of different experience. But writing is my sort of hobby and passion. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if my career changed again. I think in this day and age, we can all expect to have, you know, multiple kind of branches to our career journey, because we it's very unlikely that we'll get a job and do the same job, you know, for the rest of our working lives.
Is this a job that I would like to do? I would, if I was doing this job until retirement, I wouldn't be upset about by that at all. If I was, that's great. You know, we're making a huge difference. And what I get to do now is one of the things that I enjoyed most about being a joiner in construction was you get to see what you've done,
Yes.
and it lasts forever. So I can walk around parts of the area and say, I built that, I put that roof on there, or that house there is because I did this part of it. So you make a lasting impression, and that's the bit that I really got from being a joiner. I get the same from this job because we're changing people's lives, and that is the bit that really drives it. Is that we're taking a blank canvas, if you like, that's come out of holistic education of the national curriculum, and we can make them into a specialist in the industry, and we can create that opportunity for them using the employer links that we have, and all the good practice that we share to push them out into industry and actually really change people's lives. And so I'm getting the same satisfaction from this role as I did as being a joiner. But do I see myself doing this forever? You never know. You never know. You don't. I don't know what's around the corner. I mean, I didn't think I'd be doing it in the first place. Because I didn't like woodwork and I wasn't the best fan of education, and then I'm in education teaching woodwork now.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of those things. You never know what's around the corner.
It's a really hard question, that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, I turned the big 50 this year, and it sort of does make you reflect a bit. Who knows? I don't know.
How did you get from sort of, when did you think, oh, I'm going to do, because you obviously did the counselling qualification alongside while you were working as the enrichment officer. So what made you want to go down sort of that route?
I think, as we've talked about in our previous podcast, that there's a need. We know there's a need.
Yeah.
And working with students, I've been at the college 20 years next year. And when you sort of look back, because us as practitioners, we always reflect on why we do certain things and everything. And I think I ended up at the college because I ended up at a college at 16.
Yeah.
Because I'd done so badly in my O levels. And I'm not saying that's why people go to college. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, not everyone's cut out for sixth form. Not everyone's cut out for university. So, not at 16 anyway.
No.
And so, but I think, looking back, that's why I ended up at the college, because I wanted to help people that were at the college. So I went into do different jobs around the college and ended up doing your job for quite a long time, which I loved. I loved that job. I'm very envious that you've now got it, but you're doing a marvellous job. So, and I just saw the need really, and as you know, as part of your job, you end up in a counselling capacity because they all come to our desk. Everybody wants to be fixed. Not that we do fixing in counselling, but everybody wants to tell you how they feel all the time. And I just thought that I need better skills for this.
Yeah.
And it sort of took over really.
Right.
So that's why, because I saw there was a need. And I quite like helping people.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, and again, I don't really have a clear plan. And I'm lucky enough that I really enjoy my job. It's the job changes a lot. The environment changes. So you don't feel perhaps you've been in the job for a while, but it doesn't ever become stale or anything. There's always something new to learn. I feel I've got more to give in this job, so I'm certainly not desperate looking for the next move, if you like. But at the same time, I would just say that I'm always open-minded to opportunities. You never know what opportunities might be available, so I keep an open mind as to what they may be.
I'd like to see myself here for the foreseeable future, but I don't think you can ever say, this is where I want to be, because life's a journey. And like I said, I grew up wanting to be a lawyer. That never happened, but never say never. I don't think, I think you should always keep learning and keep getting better, and you never really know where you're going to end up.
So the next question is, how have you dealt with setbacks or rejection in your working life? So what would you sort of advise our students in regards to like how you've dealt with things?
I think going back to my sort of like the age I was, that are similar to our students now, and thinking about how difficult it was to get through my A levels and have all that rejection from universities and so on. And really, at the time, for me and my friends at school, it was really like the be all and end all. And it's only when you look back that you realise actually that was all great experience. And I laugh about all my rejection slips and things now. Oh, it is genuinely funny that we went through all of that. And I went to this university, which was like a brand new university, but really it was a brilliant experience. I met people from all different walks of life. We had a really diverse group of friends, lots of people from different ethnicities and religions and different backgrounds. And the university experience I had was genuinely, the best, few years of my life. Really, we had an absolute blast, and that was because I didn't go to any of these kind of like top universities where everything was really serious and academic and so on. So it was a great experience for me, and I would suggest to people that what might look like a setback can end up being an opportunity, really.
Well, I think the big part of it is just to be realistic about it, because yes, there are going to be obstacles and there are going to be things that come up, and rather than kind of giving up or kind of just sitting and moaning about it, it's been quite practical, and it's been about saying, right, okay, this isn't going to work doing it this way. What else can I do to do it something different? And it's finding ways around things, because one of the biggest things that I say to students is, life is not a straight road. You do not go from point A to point B. There are all sorts of roadworks, which means you have to find an alternative route, and there's roundabouts to go around, and that is just a normal part of life. You know, anybody who manages to go through life getting from A to B, I think, would be very, very rare. So yeah, it's about being realistic, being practical, and not giving up. There is always a way around things.
It is tough to deal with it. Um, Professionally speaking, it's get your head down and get on with it. It is what it is. The world's not going to stop revolving. Gravity's not going to stop working. The world doesn't care what's happening at the moment. You've got to get on with it. So it's head down, get on, keep going. And that's all I do. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt while you're doing it, and you're not upset and you're not crying your eyes out later when you get home. But ultimately, something will always be there. You know, there's no point in moping about it. It's happened.
No.
Right, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right. It just means it works for me. I mean, to just get to a point you think, well, that don't cut it anymore. I'm not doing that now. But it is difficult. There is times you just got to. Life's not fair. It isn't. It's horrible. It can be. It's brutal at times. Absolutely brutal. And life doesn't care what you're feeling. You've got to get on with it, and that's kind of what I've done. And I'm not saying that that's the right way for everybody. It's not. It's just that's how I have managed it.
Well, that big setback, and I should have got about 8 or 9 O levels, and I got 2. That weren't great. Yeah. And you do think at the time, that's what am I going to do? All those doors shut. You know, sixth form shut its door. I thought, right, what do I do now? But there are always other options. There's always another way.
Yeah.
So even though, yeah, you might not get where you want to be as soon as you want to be there, but eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, Jodie, I'm sure that everybody's experienced that. I can think of examples both in terms of jobs that I've applied for, interviews that haven't gone well and they haven't worked out. But I'd like to think that was, you know, for a reason. But also I can think of things that have gone wrong within the job. You know, everybody has those bad days. You have things that don't work out so well. So I think for me, the main thing that I've learned really is just not to dwell on things. So you need to reflect a little bit and learn from what's happened, but put your energies into making things right and working out what you would do differently, but not to dwell on those things. I mean, that's not always been easy for me. I care a lot about what I do, and you know, the standards of work, want everything to be done really, really well. So it is a difficult one, but at the same time, I think everybody needs to experience some of those difficult times as well. I think that does help you build resilience, and it just prepare you for other setbacks that you no doubt will encounter as well at different times.
I just think you've just got not to take anything personally. You've just got to pick yourself back up and say, get back on your horse, don't they? And I think that's just the way to do it. I think that's the same. You could give that advice to anything in life.
What would your ultimate top tip be for any student that's listening in terms of career or life sort of lessons?
You really don't have to be absolutely set on what's going to happen, and you can improvise along the way. And all the skills that you learn at college in different subject areas, everything will come in useful. I mean, I went to a university and did media, and little did I know then that once social media had appeared years later, that we would be making videos, and I'd be writing scripts, and I'd be writing radio scripts and that kind of thing for marketing. I didn't know that was going to come in useful later in my career, but it did. And all those skills you acquire along the way are all useful, and they all make you into a valuable employee.
Don't give up, and don't give up on your hopes and your ambitions. I always wanted to go to university, one, because it was linked to my career aims, but also after people telling me, you're not going to do anything now, your life's over, you weren't going to amount to anything, I was so determined to prove people wrong. So I went to university, and you know what? It didn't work out because of my situation, and that's fine. But I went back to university because actually, when I was working and I was kind of doing jobs, working in a college with students, it was still in the back of my mind. I still want to go to university. I still want to progress in terms of my career.
What you enjoy is my top tip. I've always done. If I don't enjoy it, I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, that's my. I've always followed what I wanted to do, and I've always tried to be the best, because the other thing is there's a million other people trying to do what you're enjoying doing.
Yeah.
And those, as I say to the kids sometimes in front of me, your colleagues and your friends on the course outside of you, well, they might be friends, but when you're on an interview, they're not your friends, they're your enemy. You need to outperform them. Yeah. And that's my top tip: is don't do anything half-heartedly. Be the best you can be.
Learn from every rejection. Learn from everything and soak it in. Just soak it in.
Yeah.
Relish all your experiences, good and bad, and there'll always be another door opening for you. You may not, may not see it, but like we've just said, when you look back, you go, okay, all right, I get it now. Take it in, relish everything, learn, soak it in, get to know as many people as you can, network, because you never know who's going to be on that interview panel, or you never know. And be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
Take time to meet people and get to know people, because in my experience, as in yours, you never know when that person's going to come along.
Yeah.
And it's so much quicker and nicer to be nice to people than it is to be horrible.
I think it's just going back to those opportunities. Just be really open-minded to opportunities. You never know what may come your way, and I think don't just always concentrate on what you think you're naturally good at. There might be some unexpected opportunities, things that use different skills that you perhaps wouldn't naturally think are your strong points. But if you keep an open mind, you can be really, really good at those things. You can really enjoy those things when that might not be the obvious choices that you'd make. But as I say, just be open-minded, really.
Never give up, because you just don't know what your future holds, and don't let anybody put you in a box and tell you can't be something, and just believe in yourself and don't give up. Even when you get old and you go back to uni, you will get there.